Studying from Sri Brahma Samhita. So we'll begin with offering prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paśyantya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langhayate girim, yat kripatamaham vande, Shri Gurum Dinatarinam, Paramanand Madhavam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So let me share my screen. So in the Brahma Samhita, we started reading Sri Brahmaji's prayers last couple of weeks ago, and it started with Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu Kalpa Vriksha. And we did the first three verses, 29, 20, 30, and 31st. And today, in which actually it progressed like this. So in the first verse, Lord Brahma meditates on Krishna's abode. He describes his abode, how it is made up of Chintamani stones, and there are many kalpa vrikshas as well as surabhi cows, and how Krishna is being served there by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis. And then in the next verse, his form is described, how his beautiful form is there, who is holding Venum Kvanantam Arvinda Dalayatакṣam. He is holding a flute in his hand. His lotus eyes are very beautiful. And then his beauty is compared to Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. So it's compared to hundreds and millions of Kandarpa or cupids put together. Then we can compare his beauty. And then in the next verse, his pastimes are described, how his Alola Chandra Kalasat Vanamalya Vamshi, when he's running around, how the Vanamala or the forest flowers garland, which is decorated with a moon locket, is Alola, is moving around. Then, and he's performing Ratnangada Pranaya Keli Kala Vilasam. He's performing very beautiful pastimes with the gopis there. And his form is again Shamam Tribhanga Lalitam Niyata Prakasham. He's eternally manifested in the three bent form, which is Shama or dark bluish form in the Goloka Vrindavan. Next few verses actually describes his power or his prowess or his excellence there. So today we are going to study the text 32. So it goes something like this. Aṅgāni yasya sakalendriya-vṛtti-manti paśyanti pānti kalayanti ciraṁ jaganti ānanda-cinmaya-sad-ujjvala-vigrahasya govindam ādi-puruṣaṁ ahaṁ bhajāmi. So it describes his limbs first. Aṅgāni yasya sakalendriya-vṛtti-manti. Aṅgāni means his limbs. So even Krishna, even though he does not have a material form, we learn in the very first verse where Brahmaji offers his prayers that he has Chidananda Vigraha. And even in this verse, he describes the same thing. So his form is spiritual, completely spiritual. He's eternal, full of knowledge and blissful form. And so his limbs are also completely spiritual. But they are very special. So aṅgāni yasya sakalendriya-vṛtti-manti. Sakala indriya means they can perform, every limb of his form can perform any function of any of the senses. And that is also completely. So he has his all the limbs or all the bodily parts can possess function or are possessing functions of all the other bodily parts, and they are also in completeness. Not that somebody we see in the material world that somebody does not have hands, they may perform some functions that are performed by hands with their legs, or even some experts, they, even though they have hand, they can perform some functions with skill with their legs, and so on and so forth. But that's not the case. Krishna can perform any function of any of the senses with any of his limbs. Like he can eat by seeing, that the example Prabhupada uses several times when we offer bhoga to Krishna deity. Then Krishna doesn't have to use his hands and mouth to eat. He can simply eat it by seeing. Or even he can create the whole creation just by seeing. Or he can see through his hands. And the one of the verses I was thinking I had open here from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says in the 13th chapter, Sarvata pani padam tat sarvatokshi mukham sarvata shutimalloke sarvam avrutya tishtati. That his everywhere are his hands and legs and his eyes, heads, faces, and he has ears everywhere. Now here he is describing here the kshetrajna, or the Paramatma feature of him, kshetra kshetrajna yoga. So two kshetrajnas, one is Atma and the other one is Paramatma. So Krishna himself is the super soul. So he is describing here this. And in this way, the super soul exists, pervading everywhere. So his limbs are everywhere, they can reach everywhere, they can perform function of all other senses with every limb, and that too in perfectly. Then it says paśyanti, the seeing, pānti means maintaining, and kalayanti manifesting. So he can perform all these functions eternally, ciraṁ, for all the universes. So he can create universes. He has been creating universes eternally, and he is seeing them, maintaining them, and manifesting them eternally. Then this is the verse I was talking about, Satchidananda Vigraha. So this is same words come in opposite order, ānanda-cinmaya-sad-ujjvala-vigrahasya. And then his form is, again, he's describing here that he, one of his prowess is that his form is spiritual, is completely blissful, Ananda. Then Chinmaya is fully knowledgeable and eternal, and as well as it is eternally splendor or dazzling, effulgent. Everything, the whole creation basically is effulgence, which is what we call Brahma Jyoti, or the Brahman realization. The first realization of the absolute truth is Brahman realization, that we can understand from his energy. The scientists may say that, oh, this whole creation is like the absolute truth. That is the first level of understanding of the absolute truth. Uh, so his form, and that's what he is not nirakar, or he is not formless. So he has vigraha, but he does not have form like us, what we can perceive from our material conception or material senses. So his form is different. That is ānanda-cinmaya-sad-ujjvala-vigrahasya. So to that Govinda, Brahmaji is offering his prayers. Govindam ādi-puruṣaṁ. O Govinda, O ādi-puruṣ, O original person, tam ahaṁ bhajāmi. To you, to him, to that Govinda, I offer my obeisances. So we'll read the translation, and then there is very beautiful purport. We can go through purport section by section. So here Brahmaji is saying, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of most dazzling splendor. ānanda-cinmaya-sad-ujjvala. Each of the limbs of the transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged function of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. So when we think of universes, many times we think of the material creation, where there are many universes coming from the uh, bodily pores of Mahavishnu. That's what we learned earlier in the Brahma Samhita. But there are also spiritual planetary systems, spiritual universes in the spiritual world. And Krishna is seeing, maintaining, and manifesting these universes, both spiritual and material or mundane. So this is his like prowess, his potency is described in this verse. And then there are next few verses also describe his potency, that how his form is Advaita Achyutam Anadina Ananta Rupam. But let's go to the purport. So for the want of taste of spiritual things, a grave doubt arises in the mind of those who are enchanted by worldly knowledge. On hearing the narration of pastime of Krishna, they think that the truth or the tattva regarding Krishna is the mental concoction of certain learned scholars created by their imaginative brains, or material drawn from the mundane principles. So here, when we try to understand spiritual abode or spiritual form of Krishna, and when we read this description from Brahma Samhita or Srimad Bhagavatam or Vedic literature, the descriptions given of Krishna, that what we are reading right now, and his form, that his Shama Sundara form, Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham, he's holding a flute and all that. So all these, what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying here is that there could be doubts, a grave doubt arises in the minds of those who are in the material world, who are always enchained. We are completely chained by the material knowledge. And so we cannot think beyond the material creation, and for everything we are looking something that is tangible to us. And they think that the description that is given here by Brahmaji, or the description that is given of Krishna and his abode in the Vedic literature, can be just imagination of somebody, or it is just mental concoction of some learned scholars. It's just some imaginary things. But here he is further saying that with the object of removing this harmful doubt, what is Brahmaji doing? He in this shloka and the following three shlokas, after distinguishing between two things, that is material and the spirit, in a rational manner, he tries to make one understand the pure Leela of Krishna. And how that can be obtained? It is obtained only by unmixed ecstatic trance. So that's how Brahmaji has obtained this. Not any mundane person, just by some mental speculation or study of Vedas or by his scholarship, can understand this. This can be obtained only by unmixed ecstatic trance, unalloyed devotional service. That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita also, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvata. Krishna never says that only by jnana or Veda, study of the Vedas or karma one can understand me. Only by pure bhakti, Ananya Bhakti, one can understand me. And that's what Brahmaji is, how he has understood this, and that's how he is describing this, and he is giving it to us, we who are in the mundane, on the mundane platform, so that we can get this gist of the abode of Krishna and his pastimes in the Goloka Vrindavan. So Brahma wants to say that the form of Krishna is all existence, all knowledge, and all bliss, whereas all mundane experience is full of palpable ignorance. All the existence in the material world is completely in ignorance, in the dark ignorance, which we cannot understand things beyond this material existence. And that's what Brahmaji is wanting to explain us, that his form is beyond the perception of our senses. That's why Krishna is also called Adhokshaja, that he cannot be perceived through our blunt material senses. So he's trying to give us the description that he is ānanda-cinmaya-sad-ujjvala-vigraha, that his form is existence, all knowledge and all bliss, or same thing, Sachidananda Vigraha. And although there is a specific difference between the two, the fundamental difference is the spiritual affairs constitute the absolute source, and this, so the specification and variegatedness are ever present in it. So specification, variegatedness, for both of them, the word what we learned last time is Vishesha. So Vishesha means he has very specific adjectives that can be used for Krishna. And even by using those adjectives, we cannot completely describe his beauty or his pastimes or his power or his knowledge. He is full in all the opulences. So those are very specifics. But that doesn't limit him only to those. It is also variety. There is so much variegatedness in the spiritual kingdom, and that's what the first level of understanding when Brahman realized people, or one who wants to get free from this material entanglement, they think that there is no variegatedness, there is only one light, and they want to get free from this material entanglement and merge into that light. But that is not true. There is also variegatedness, and actually the variegatedness or the variety what we see in the material world is the reflection of that variegatedness in the spiritual world. That's what we will read further. By them are the established and transcendental abode, form, name, quality, and sports of Krishna. So everything is in variety in the spiritual world. And as he is the full enjoyer, Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he is the supreme enjoyer. And as we say, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So there is unlimited variety in the spiritual abode, because he is enjoying that unlimited variety, and there are unlimited devotees trying to serve Krishna with unlimited varieties of devotion services. So it is only by person possessed of pure spiritual knowledge and freedom from any relationship with Maya that these amorous pastimes of Krishna can be appreciated. Any person on the mundane platform who is entangled in this material or conditional life, or who is under the influence of Maya, cannot understand this pastimes of Krishna, or they cannot appreciate the pastimes of Krishna. They think that even Krishna's pastimes are at the mundane level, and they try to imitate those. Why Krishna only? Because of enviousness with Krishna, they try to compete with Krishna and perform those pastimes here because of that envy. But only a person who is completely purified by spiritual knowledge, and he is free from any relationship with Maya, can appreciate these pastimes. And again, he's describing here the spiritual abode or the seat of pastimes emanated from the chit potency. That's what we learned earlier, that the spiritual abode is created by his Rama or chit potency, the spiritual energy. And the material creation is created by the material energy or the shadow of that Rama. But again, it is also created through the glance of Mahavishnu. So that potency is formed, how we learned earlier, Chintamani. So it is made up of all the transcendental philosopher stones or the spiritual stones. And then the figure of Krishna is also all spiritual. There is no touch of any material element there. And just as Maya is perverted reflection of the spiritual potency, the variety or variegatedness created by Maya or ignorance is also perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness. So all the varieties what we see here is actually reflection of the original spiritual variety in the spiritual kingdom. I was remembering when I was reading this, I was remembering one of the past times that Amarendra Prabhu mentioned once. So he mentioned when Prabhupada went to Australia once, there was very young devotee, so who somehow or other got in touch with the devotees in Australia, and he got attracted to this philosophy and Bhagavad Gita, and he was very much into it, and he has never met Prabhupada before, but he read books, and he was dedicating his time in the temple. And once Prabhupada visited Australia, and he heard that Prabhupada is coming, so he was very excited to see Prabhupada. And then they all went to receive Prabhupada on the airport. And that time, from the airport, when the flight landed, there was a ladder attached to uh, the plane, and everybody started coming down, and the devotees were waiting for Prabhupada. So in the beginning, some passengers came, and then the crew started coming, and in that crew, there was one very beautiful air hostess. And this devotee somehow got attracted by her beauty, and by natural thing, he started constantly looking at her. And then she just passed him, and he was looking and turning back to her. And when he turned back again to see Prabhupada, he saw Prabhupada standing in front of him. And Prabhupada was watching him. And Prabhupada just said to him that if the minute spark is so beautiful, imagine how beautiful the source, the Supreme Lord would be. And then he just walked from there. So that's the same thing. The variety or the beauty in this material world is nothing but mere reflection of the original spiritual beauty in the spiritual world. And that source of that beauty is actually Krishna. And he's the most beautiful person. And that, so a mere semblance of spiritual variety or variegatedness is only noticed in this material world. So what we see is only some resemblance of that beauty. Whatever beauty we see here, maybe somebody may see beauty in the full moon, or somebody may see beauty in the vast ocean, or somebody may see beauty in the large mountains, or somebody may see beauty in the other animals or even other sex. So all that beauty is mere semblance of the spiritual variety, the original beauty in the spiritual world. But notwithstanding such semblance, the two are wholly different from one another. One is temporary and one is permanent. The unwholesomeness of matter is its defect. So the material beauty is not complete. It is temporary, and it has a beginning and an end. Everything what we see here, all the creation that goes through 6 transformations that we realize it comes into existence, it grows, it creates some byproducts, it stays for some time, then it starts dwindling, and then it vanishes. So everything goes through those transformations, and it seems beautiful for a certain period, but then it dwindles eventually, and it eventually vanishes. So the unwholesomeness of the matter is its defect. But that is not true. But in the spirit, the variegatedness, which is free from any fault or contamination, it is completely full, it is whole. So it has no defect or no contamination. And again, the difference between the spiritual and the material creation is given here, that the soul and body of Krishna are identical. And for that matter, for all the living entities in the spiritual world, they have spiritual body. So they have no separate material body. Whereas the body and soul of fallen creatures are not so. They are different. So in the spiritual sphere, there is no such difference as between the body and soul, and between the limbs and their proprietors. In the So when I say my hand, it is not I hand or I head or I. It is my eye, my nose. But in the spiritual world, everything is spiritual form. And that's why the proprietor of that spiritual form, they can perform all activities. And that's what Krishna, he can perform all the activities of all the senses using his all limbs completely, fully. And the attributes of the possessing in this world. But the difference really exists in the case of conditioned souls. So for us, the body and we are different. So the limbs work, they have specific functions how they work. Though Krishna is in his every limb the whole entity. So, but limb, even though Krishna has limbs, so it is, so we say that Krishna has hands, Krishna has legs, Krishna has eyes and everything, but his every limb is perfect, a whole entity, and that's why he can perform. He performs all varieties of divine spiritual functions with every one of his limbs. And hence he is invisible, whole, and perfect transcendental entity. So he is not visible or he cannot be perceived through our mundane senses. So both the Jiva and Krishna are transcendental. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the very beginning, when he starts instructing, Natvivaham jatunasam natvam ne me janadipa. Sarve vayamata param, that we are all eternal. We never, there was no time that when we did not exist. There will be no time when we did not exist. And we are existing now also. And we are all spiritual. We are all eternal. So both Krishna and Jiva are transcendental originally, but and they belong to the same category, but they differ in that the transcendental attributes exist in Jiva soul are infinitesimally small degree. So we are Anu and Krishna is Vibhu. Krishna is infinite and we are infinitesimal. Whereas Krishna, they are found in their fullest perfection. So all the attributes of the living or the spiritual attributes exist completely in Krishna, but the same are existing in a Jiva soul when he is spiritually perfect in a minute infinitesimal degrees. So those attributes manifest themselves in proper infinitesimality only when the Jiva attains unadulterated spiritual state. Only when the Jiva is purified completely by surrendering to Krishna, he can attain all those qualities in pure, but in the infinitesimal degree. And the Jiva soul attains nearest approach to the absolute identity only when the spiritual force is ecstatic, appears in them by grace of Krishna. So only by grace of Krishna, when he approaches the absolute truth, he can spiritually completely perfect. And that's when all these qualities are perfected, but in a very infinitesimal degree or quantity. But Krishna is in full. But still, so what happens if a jiva becomes pure? Does he become equal to Krishna or merge into Krishna? So it says no. Still, Krishna remains the object of universal homage by reason of his possession of certain unique attributes. So even though a jiva becomes spiritually perfect, Krishna is still his worshipable deity. The relationship, eternal relationship between Krishna and Jiva is always that of a master and servant. That never changes. One never becomes equal to Krishna, even after attaining perfection. Only thing is, he can become perfect servant of Krishna. And these fourfold unrivaled attributes do not manifest themselves even in Narayan, the Lord of Vaikuntha, or primeval Purusha avatars, or even the highest deities such as Brahma or Shiva, not to speak of Jivas. So there are 64 qualities given which are perfectly, fully manifested in Krishna. They are eternally, fully manifested in Krishna. So out of those, 50 can be manifested in a jiva when he attains perfection. Additional 5 can be manifested in the personalities like Brahma or Shiva when they become perfect. Then there are more 5, so total 60 are manifested in Lord Narayan. But there are 4 special qualities that are only in Krishna. They are never manifested or they are never seen even in Narayan, in Vaikuntha. So I think we are a little bit over time. But yeah, this is what the whole purport is. I thought this was very beautiful purport, and I wanted to go over each section and try to get the gist of it. So I'll stop there. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Anuradhananda Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Very beautifully you narrated about today's verse, Prabhuji. I have a small question, Prabhuji. You mentioned that Krishna and uh, compared the earth beauty and spiritual beauty, right, Prabhuji? So, Prabhuji, even the earth beauty also it's created by Krishna only, no, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So naturally, our mind and our thoughts also will be beauty of wherever the beauty is there, we will attract it now, Prabhuji. So that's why we may attracted it to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, how how we should um, compare the spiritual and material things, Prabhuji? Can you explain it? The spiritual beauty and material beauty, but both are given to the Krishna only. But how we fallen to in this place by attracting the spiritual beauty, I mean material beauty.
So both spiritual beauty and material beauty are of Krishna's. That's true. It's saying the same thing, that both the spiritual energy and material energy is comes from Krishna. Krishna says that Daivi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durattaya, that this Gunamayi Maya, which is made up of 3 modes of material nature, is also mine. And then he also says in later Mahatmanas Mam Partha Daivi Prakriti Mashita, that the Mahatmas or the great souls, they take shelter of my spiritual Daivi Prakriti. So both the energies are Krishna's energy. So the beauty, the only thing what we are reading today is the beauty what we see, or the variety what we see in this material world is, even though it is beautiful, but it is, as compared to the spiritual beauty, it is not as much as beautiful, or it is just a semblance. It resembles with that beauty, but it is just a mere reflection of that beauty. That's it. So we should still appreciate the beauty here. That's why Krishna gives in the 10th chapter Bhagavad Gita, right? When he is giving his opulences in the Vibhuti Yoga, he is giving so many examples, because for our benefit, we can see from our mundane perception only the material things, or something that is tangible to us, something that we can understand. So he gives example that out of the great mountains, I am Himalaya. So Himalaya, even though it is in the material world, Krishna says that, oh, when you see Himalaya, just think of me. So there is nothing wrong appreciating beauty, but why, the second question why I understand what you are asking is why we are in this material world. So is that true, Mataji?
Yeah. So
So
my as my understanding is, so we attracted a material beauty and came to the earth, or we envious to the Krishna. And I mean, my question is both the things, Prabhuji, envious of Krishna or material attraction, and we came down, and that's why we born so many births and births like that. That is the
So we are attracted by this beauty, that is true, but we wanted to enjoy it separately than Krishna, by envy of Krishna. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata. Krishna says in the 7th chapter that we have, first of all, desire to enjoy, and desire to enjoy separately from Krishna because we are envious of Krishna. Why he is the only enjoyer? Why I cannot enjoy like him? And with that enviousness, then Krishna created this material world and he gave us an opportunity that you can try and enjoy here. So that's why we are here. We are trying, and that's what we are trying to do here eternally. We are trying to enjoy or exploit this material energy for our own sense gratification. And as long as we have that mentality or desire, we keep changing bodies in this material world. But as soon as we realize who we really are, what is our real relationship with Krishna, that master and servant, and we appreciate the beauty of this creation, but we engage that in his service, then then we are freed. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji.
Do you want to add anything, Prabhuji, Shankaran Prabhuji?
No, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much. Prabhu.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Any additional thoughts or questions, Mataji's, Prabhuji's?
Thank you very much, Radhā-Rañjana Prabhu.
Thank you so much,
I
Prabhuji.
think these verses of prayers by Lord Brahma is something, so the essence of all the Vedic text, and you're taking time and effort to explain these verses based on the purports by Bhakti-Santa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Prabhu. This is really purifying. Yeah.
Thank you, Radhā-Rañjana Prabhu. It was pretty nice. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So if not, I think we can stop here.